We'll call to order the Monday, September 13th, 2021 Parks, Recreation, and Natural Resource Commission meeting. Roll call.
Taken.
Approval of the agenda. We have a request to move action item 9B, Community Center, up to presentations. Any issues with that?
Nope.
If not, that's the way it'll be. Approval of minutes from August 9th, 2021. Everybody get a chance to review it? Any comments? If not, do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Make a motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Open forum. Do we have, please step up and give us your name and address.
Hi,
just
my
a
name is
remind-
Carla Indereden. Go ahead.
Just a quick reminder, open forum is limited to 3 minutes per participant.
Thank you. My name is Carla Indereden. I reside at 10659 Gray Cloud Trail South. So I reside immediately next to the Mississippi Dunes property. You guys have heard from me before. And I just want to make note, I saw the plans that just came out last week. And though an improvement from the first one, still do not fit, excuse me, I'm winded from the walk, still do not fit within the current zoning. And we, those 2,000 some folks who have signed the petition, do not believe that this property should be rezoned at all. If anything, only to be park space in its entirety. I also want to make note, again, this is an endangered species property. We know that the rusty patch bumblebee is on this property. And we want a natural park space, which contrary to comments by the city council is not more expensive than having a four-season building and maintained property along the shoreline, which included what I saw to be playground and a water feature and all sorts of things would be far more expensive for the city to maintain than a natural park space. That's all.
Thank you for your comments. Do we have any other parties? Please step forward.
Sorry for using my laptop. My printer wasn't working today. Hi, Commissioners. I'm Colleen O'Connor Toberman from Friends of the Mississippi River, 101 East 5th Street in St. Paul. It's nice to be with you again. And I really appreciate your thoughtful work on Mississippi Dunes. I know that your commission has taken this very seriously and put a lot of thought into it. I still want to encourage you to pursue a larger park than what's in the plan before you today. You know, we know the site is really unique and it deserves as much community enjoyment and environmental protection as we can muster for it. I do believe that having a larger park is still possible, that, you know, it will require the city to use its full zoning authority to guide the future use of the land. It will require the city to actively seek out funding to purchase the land at a fair market value, and it would require the city to slow down the planning process to give enough time for more community input and for that funding to come together. If the city wants to pursue more funding for a bigger park, Friends of the Mississippi still remains committed to helping with their city funds, state funds, and private funds that could be brought to bear. I'll note that the 3M PFAS settlement includes $20 million specifically earmarked for outdoor recreation and habitat restoration. Newport has already openly started talking about their desire to use some of these funds, and Cottage Grove could certainly consider doing the same. So far, it seems like a lot of Mississippi Dunes decisions are being made behind closed doors with relatively limited community input, you know, mostly just folks who can come to these meetings. And it already appears, you know, that the city isn't particularly open to changing its mind in a substantive way. And it appears that what we have right now is the developer getting nearly everything they want, while the community is just left with a small neighborhood park on a really beautiful site. A better community visioning process for the dunes would include, you know, welcoming in residents earlier in the process when there's still an opportunity to gather a lot of ideas before a layout is decided and before the council makes decisions that can't be reversed. The city has clear authority to guide future land use at Mississippi Dunes, and it seems like there might be more time needed to study the site, gather community input, assemble funding. And so we'd like the city to consider a one-year development moratorium to finish that study and input process. Mendota and Mendota Heights have both recently done this for river-related development issues. And I encourage Cottage Grove to consider a one-year moratorium as well. And I hope that the Park Commission would consider making that recommendation to the council. Thank you.
Thank you for your input. Do we have any other parties that wish to step forward? If not, we will move on to item 6, presentations. We have the community center.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Tonight, we have the mayor here would like to speak a little bit on the community center and talk about what and why and the referendum and some of the information both the commission and residents might want to know before November 2nd's ballot question.
Fantastic. Thank you, Zach, and thank you to the commission for all the work that you do, especially being that this is the Parks and Recreation Natural Resources Commission. Before I get started and just share a few things, I thought I would do a quick video. And normally I'm sitting up there, so it's kind of weird to be down in this area, but I'm going to go ahead and click this and we can watch the video. For at least the last 20 years, I've been hearing it consistently about the citizens of Cottage Grove want a gathering place. They want to be able to do things here in Cottage Grove that now they have to go to other communities outside of Cottage Grove to actually do those things. And so after 20 years, we're finally here. We've done a lot of research and talking to the public to get an idea of what they're looking for. And this is what we're coming up with.
Cottage Grove residents take pride living in a community that thrives and prospers. On November 2nd, the City of Cottage Grove will ask residents to vote on a $39.2 million referendum to build a new community center. The plans for the community center are the result of many years of study and public engagement. The facility features several amenities, including an indoor playground, sports dome with walking track, climbing wall, multi-use spaces, and a 50-meter outdoor pool and aquatic center. The community center would be built with everyone in mind, with a variety of recreational and educational opportunities that all can benefit from.
Having an indoor playground area, having an indoor climbing wall, meeting rooms. Our seniors are telling us they want a place where they can meet. The reality is we don't really have a place where if you wanted to take your kid, or me, in my case, my grandkids, take them into some place, during the winter on a rainy day. There isn't any place here in Cottage Grove that I can do that. We hear about our sports groups. They're having to go hours, literally, in some cases, away to get space rented. And this would be another opportunity for them to do that here and not have to leave our community.
The community center would be built near the corner of Highway 61 and Keats Avenue, directly across from Cottage Grove Ravine Regional Park. This location provides easy access to major roads and connections to residential and shopping districts. If approved, the estimated tax impact on a $300,000 property would be $15 per month.
I think what you're going to see is you're going to see a lot more families staying in town. I think you're going to see a lot more, grandparents bringing their kids to whether it's the water park or the other options that are going to be part of the community center. But where this area is located too, I truly believe you're going to see some significant growth in our areas of our community that people are asking for. They want more restaurants, they want more entertainment options, they want more retail options. And I think that is really what this is going to bring, is kind of really grow that area and give a spot where we can finally get those kind of things that people are asking for.
Learn more about the referendum and vote on November 2nd.
All right, so I just wanted to point out that the city is doing everything we can to get the information out to the public, whether it's through videos. Matter of fact, a week ago, Zach and I had the opportunity last Wednesday to do a Facebook Live event, and I can say, I guess we heard from our cable group that was the most tuned in event that they've ever had. So we're pretty excited about that, because that particular event that we did was a kind of a Q&A, and we opened it up. We took questions prior, but we also did during that actual presentation, during the live broadcast, and we're able to share information on the general, what's the community center going to be about, what's going to be in it, around it, and some of those questions. And then early October, Robin Rowland, our finance director, and I are be doing another Facebook Live event that's really going to dig deeper into the financials. So you did obviously see in the video, they mentioned about a $300,000 home would be about $15 per month, but we also have the numbers that will be, you know, how much is it going to cost for the residents per year to maintain it? How, you know, we have an idea of how many staff members we're going to need, what the cost is going to be. So we're going to actually get into those level of details at the first or second week in October, which is basically a month out from the actual referendum question. So what I thought I would do here, since you're the Parks and Rec Commission, I'm making a point to make myself available to all the different commissions. If there's any questions that you might have, and whether it's financial or in general for the community center, I'm here to answer those questions. Yes.
I know we talked about it earlier in the process. I was obviously on the planning for this. There's talk of some financial partnerships maybe being available. Is that still something that's being pursued?
Absolutely. Thank you, Eric, for Mr. Witt for mentioning that. So there is kind of a multitude, frankly, of different groups. We are actually working on some federal dollars that would help with some of the infrastructure in there. It's actually in the bill that's going through the House and the Senate right now for approval. So we do have some money that's been appropriated that would help with bringing the costs down. We actually have a couple different groups, and not even just, for example, the athletic associations and such, but we're working with, I believe it's a Southeast Metro Shark Swim Club. Okay, a swim club that is actually working on financials that helps pay for a portion of the pool. So we have those kind of things, and then as well as we're looking at other opportunities, including naming rights, but we didn't really want to get into the whole naming rights thing and the financials of that. We do know there's interest. I've literally had people businesses reach out to me that have done it in other communities, large facilities and such. But until we know that we really are going to have a community center, we really can't get into that discussion yet until the voters make the decision if we're going to move forward or not. So good question.
What's the time frame on this? If this actually does go through, the referendum passes, what is the time frame between breaking ground and completion? Is there some sort of an estimate on when that happens?
Yeah, at this point, Mr. Bonison, we are looking at, if the referendum passes in November, we will start some of the deeper dive into the plannings. Probably some of the infrastructure stuff will begin next year. And then I was assuming, I'm gonna look to Zach just for a little bit more clarity. We're looking fall into that following year, so 2023, maybe.
Even into 24.
Yeah.
Like the pool wouldn't be till 24, but maybe some of the community center indoor portions could be open in 23.
Yeah, so we are gonna do too, is we're gonna look at building it, if you will, in phases. I mean, it'll all be built, but in phases. So like Zach was saying, there might be an opportunity where part of the center might be open, let's say before the pool is, or the water park. And then the other thing I should mention, because I think it's important, is, you know, you saw some pictures in the video of what the indoor playground was gonna look like, or will look like. That is just schematics, that's just a design. What we will do, should the voters decide to move forward with this referendum, is we will actually open it up for the community to help us design what that indoor playground will be. Now, Zach will make sure that I say this, there is a budget, you know, we have a budget for everything, so there'll be a certain amount of money that'll be allocated, but we will probably want the Parks Commission to entertain having conversations with the general public about what they want to see in an indoor play area for kids. So 2024-ish, with some maybe late 2023.
All right, thank you.
Cool. Any other questions?
I have one. I don't remember if we talked about it before, but is the shops at Cottage View dependent upon the community center being built, or is that an independent thing that would probably still happen or not?
Thank you, Mr. Larson. I would tell you that it is independent, but I will share with you that what we're hearing from developers and interested parties for the shops at Cottage View, they're waiting to see what happens with the voters, what they decide with regards to the community center. The road structure, that the money that some of the money that we're asking for from the federal government as part of the stimulus money, the goal was to actually start putting some of that infrastructure in, so whether the community center passes or not, there will be the infrastructure in place to actually bring some of that commercial product into that market there. But again, the business community is waiting to kind of wait and see what happens with the community center, because it is definitely a draw. We've had a lot of different people that are telling us that, you know, if the community center were to go in, they definitely want to be down by that. Okay. Well, sounds good. I will let you guys get back to it. Again, if there's any questions, you know I'm always available, one way or the other. And obviously, you can go to the website if you have further questions, or if people are asking you questions and you don't know what the answer is, either direct them towards the community center website, or have them reach out to Zach or myself, and we'll be more than happy to help them. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Moving on, action items. Park naming application.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. At the last Parks Commission meeting, the commission had reviewed park naming request, and no formal recommendation is needed at that first meeting, but the commission did choose to table the item, asking for some more information from staff. And just as a reminder of how the policy works, once again, the commission can table it, it can ask for more information, it can recommend denial, and if denial is recommended, then I get in contact with the person who filled out the application, let them know that the process is stopped. So those are the options the commission has. Or you can once again ask me for more information, and we keep going back and bring you the details you need to make the decision. So some of the items I wanted to clarify, I did talk with the person who submitted the application, who's on the Advisory Commission for Historic Preservation, and talked a little bit about the name William Crockett. And some of the details are in the report, but there were 1,557 United States missing in action soldiers during Vietnam War. There were 33 Minnesota missing in action soldiers during the Vietnam War. There was just one Cottage Grove missing in action soldier during Vietnam War, and that was Mr. William Crockett. He does have a memorial marker at Fort Snelling, but no one knows what is actually buried there. Typically, they put in personal items or whatever it might be, because obviously the body is not there. And then William grew up just a few blocks from Hamlet Park at 8753 Hadley Avenue, so it's presumed he spent much time playing at Hamlet Park, which is also Cottage Grove's oldest and largest park. He did attend Park High School and graduated, and then just a few other comments there. We had talked about past precedent of naming a park or a field. We do have Collins Field at Old Cottage Grove Park, which is a city park, and then Granville O. Smith Baseball Field, which is actually at Park High School, but that's through the school district system. And then just a quick search, Stuart C. Mills at Memorial Park in Brainerd, Minnesota. So these are non-Cottage Grove, obviously. Ken Swartz Field of Dred Scott Park in Bloomington, Minnesota. McGuire Field at Lorraine Park in South St. Paul, so you can see how, how some communities are naming parks within, naming facilities or fields within a park system, and keeping the name of the park. So, and then I was also asked of what those options might look like. So I listed 10 different options for you in the report, of how that might look, should the commission want to choose some form of renaming. And then I also included some interpretive signs or memorials that you might see in the parks that could be incorporated if the commission chooses to do some sort of a renaming, wants to memorialize that situation. So I guess I'll turn it over for questions or comments.
Comments?
I know we discussed at the last meeting about maybe not renaming the entire park. Just a comment from me, I would personally be more in favor to lean towards naming just a field or a set of fields.
Yes, I'll speak up. I agree with that. Hamlet Park has been named Hamlet Park forever and a day. I definitely think we should honor Mr. Crockett, and I think by naming some fields after him, I don't know if they'd be the new fields going in or the old ones. I guess I have a question on if we go to the naming the fields or a field, if we have a set of 4 fields, I'd like to know what the layout would be of the new one.
Sure.
I think all 4 fields, that area could be named, William Crockett Fields.
Sure.
And definitely have some type of memorial explaining why we're doing this, just like you presented.
Okay.
That would be my preference.
So number 2, which said William Crockett Fields at Hamlin Park, and then all 4 fields, and then it's William Crockett Field 1, William Crockett Field 2, 3 and 4.
Right. Are they all going to be together?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you could put something in the middle, and
Correct.
everybody knows that 4 of these fields are named for him.
Correct.
Other comments? Ms. Brown?
I would also be in favor of naming some of the fields at Hamlet Park after William Crockett, but this renaming application kind of sparked an interest for me, and I think Commissioner Crabtree brought it up at our last meeting as well, as considering naming an entire park for veterans or MIA, to recognize more of our community members who have served. I would be curious to know how many other individuals are MIA from other wars or operations. If that's too wide of a scope to consider at this time, I think naming after William Crockett would be fine. But there might be more people we could include and provide an opportunity to recognize their service by naming an entire park, perhaps one of the new ones in our plans for East Ravine and those places. So I just wanted to put that out there as well.
Other comments?
So options for the commission right now are to either table it for more information, denial, or to make a recommendation, which would have to come back before the commission one more time for review, and then there would be a final recommendation to city council, because there does need to be two formal reviews of a naming before it goes to city council.
Well, I'll make a motion that we go with number 2. William Crockett Fields at Hamlet Park. All new fields are to be named as such, 1 through 4.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor, say, any discussion?
I like that plan. I'm all in favor of that.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Do we have anyone here from the Crockett family? No. Anyway, we thank them and everyone for their service. Next, park budget funding requests.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. I think most of the commission knows that the Parks Commission has access for up to $10,000 per year for park projects they feel merit financial assistance. It requires at least a 50-50 match from other groups who have projects in mind. And we have 2 requests. We have not, the commission has not rewarded any requests this year. I think last year they authorized 2 at $5,000. This year there hasn't been any yet. The first one is the Bike Park Volunteer Group has submitted a request for consideration for their long-term master plan of the park. So they're asking for $2,500 to help pay for a contract to rebuild and upgrade their existing 4-cross downhill BMX course, which was the original track that was built the first time when they started out as a very small volunteer group in grading out the property. So they're looking to rehab that and get that back into shape after, what's it been? It's already been 6-7 years, so. And then also the Cottage Grove Athletic Association Baseball Division is requesting up to $5,000 to support scoreboard at Woodridge Park. They're paying approximately $15,000 for the scoreboard. The power has to be run from the existing building to power the scoreboard, so in consideration of their $5,000 donation for the scoreboard, they're asking for the city to contribute the funding up to $5,000 to get the electrical out there. So looking to the commission to consider those 2 options, and then motions would be requested for each one individually.
Just a general question, this $10,000, if we don't use it, it doesn't carry over, is that correct?
Correct. But in the capital improvements plan, there's $10,000 per year allocated.
And then just for future reference, I think it'd be helpful if we had maybe like a 5-year history of who got the money in years past,
Yep, I have
in
that.
case there was certain groups continually getting it, if there's ever a conflict. We could kind of
Yep,
try
I
to
have
be
that,
fair.
and I can bring that to you. I don't know if anybody's in the audience, might want to ask if anybody's here for those 2 items.
Is there anyone here in regards to any of these items?
Just want to make sure.
Okay,
I'd just like to say that I live near the BMX park, and in recent years, it's actually gotten pretty run down. So I think the money would be going to a good cause to kind of refurbish it, because some spots are honestly unusable. It's kind of gotten a little dangerous.
I had a question about the scoreboard. Is that pretty standard to have scoreboards at community parks?
Standard's a hard word. I mean, yeah, I mean, most communities have, so in Cottage Grove, we have 0 baseball fields with a scoreboard. I would say that's pretty uncommon to not have at least one field with a scoreboard.
Okay. Is there any zoning or any kind of legal concerns about installing something like that, or?
No, and it's minimal power. It's all LED lighting now, so it's pretty minimal, but, and Woodridge is the premier baseball field in the community, so that's why they chose that site.
I had a question on the BMX proposal. They say that they would match the funds in volunteer work and cash. Is that something we can do, is match money with volunteer hours, or would we have to match cash to cash?
Yeah, and I've talked to them about what they're, it's a lot of work what they're doing. And they're gonna match it with cash. I assume, from what I understand, it's gonna be matched with cash, but they also have a bunch of volunteer hours on top of that, so it's gonna be more than the $2,500 match, but yes.
any other questions? You want this handled separately then?
Yes, please.
Okay, do we have a motion for the $2,500 bike park, BMX bike park grant?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Good second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Second one, we have a request for $5,000 for the electronic scoreboard for the Athletic Association. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on, presentation of information.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the commission, just wanted to go through some of the updates to park improvement plans. There is a lot going on. If you haven't drove around, almost every quadrant of the community's got some sort of park improvement happening. So I just wanted to quickly go through where some of those items are at. We talked about Hamlet Park a little bit. The south expansion area, those 2 ball fields will be ready for play next spring. The grass is coming in great. The building is about, the walls are up on the building now, and they're starting to put the roof on this week. So that building's coming along, will probably be finished sometime later this fall, but we won't be using it until the spring anyhow. Parking lot is in. They have to put the final lift on here shortly. And the shelters went up last week. I think they're complete now. So the 2 shelters will be up. So that project is coming to a close completion here. So also, our staff went through and did a bunch of work on the Hamlet Field number 2, the soccer football field just north of the existing soccer football field with lights. So we're regrading that, making that a regulation game field. They used to play games on there, but it was it was a little wavy and bumpy, or the grades weren't the greatest, so we're putting irrigation in there, and then when it was dry, there was no irrigation there, so we're putting in irrigation with help from the football and soccer associations who are donating the funds for that. And habitat restoration projects continue to, Kingston Park is the most recent one that continues to come in. We're doing a lot of mowing out there in the first year of the growing season, but that's coming along nicely. So is Settlers Island. We're doing another small tree planting out on the island. Highlands Park, you may have seen the basketball court was reconstructed. We'll be repainting that later this fall, or most likely next spring. We have to do some extra fencing work. One of those, the third final court is going to be a multi-purpose court, as you may recall, where it's not just basketball, but it can be used for roller hockey or soccer or whatever it might be. So that's coming to fruition here over the next handful of months. Sunny Hill Park, continue to work on that final expansion there. They started putting irrigation in and have to do some final grading and reseeding there. Antlers Ridge expansion, they're still working on that in coordination with the housing development there, but the trails have expanded there. So Oakwood Park, obviously, there's a significant construction there. Most of the parking lot the parking lot's been ripped up, and I think they're getting ready for their first lift here in the next week or two. The area for the playground has been graded out, so the playground could start going in any time in the next couple, 2 or 3 weeks. But the entry area is closed until construction's complete. Our parks crew did demolish the old picnic shelter, and council awarded the contract to build the new picnic shelter with restrooms and the utilities to get to the restrooms at their last meeting, so that's moving forward. Lamar Park has new playground equipment. It's all seated and done now with the help of our park crew, and still working on some upgrades to the softball fields there this fall. Harside Park, we haven't replaced that playground yet, but it'll be happening here in the next, any day. They should be getting ready to replace that playground. Arbor Meadows is almost complete with the kind of in coordination with pavement management. The shelter started going up last week. The trails have been in for a couple of weeks. New parking lot, so that's looking nice. The new court is paved. It'll be surfaced here sometime this fall. That's a lot. Any questions?
That is a lot.
No, it sounds like we're moving ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the city has the website for construction updates, and they have a section for park projects. And right now, the only one on there is the expansion going on at Hamlet Park. I think it would be really helpful to have even something as simple as a copy of this sheet available on there. Because if you're someone who's planning to go to a park that maybe you haven't visited in a while, it could be a surprise when you arrive and the parking lot's gone or the playground equipment has been moved. Just to share more information with our community members about these ongoing projects. Maybe that could even be a good link for some of our planning. I know you're going to talk more about Mississippi Dunes and more community engagement, but that could be another opportunity to share information about our process.
For sure. We will get that updated right away.
Any other comments?
Is Strawberry Fields Park
Oh, I'm sorry.
in the process?
Yeah, so it's all ready for the playground. I thought the playground's starting to go in, right? They started the pergola today, so the playground will be shortly behind that. So I would assume in the next few weeks, that park will be pretty much ready to go. They'll have to seed it when they're complete, but the irrigation is in. Our parks crew put that irrigation in too, so it's kind of ready to go. So that'll be a fun one to get opened up this fall.
Okay, Zach, was that the 2021 park improvement plans that you just covered?
Yep.
Okay. Moving on down, we've covered community center on the Mississippi Dunes.
Thanks again, Mr. Chair and members of the commission. So updating the commission on the park improvement plan, kind of what's happened since we last visited. Actually, when we last met, we met on site and walked the property. I did take 4 notes that the commission wanted to consider. Those were to expand the parking options, and whether that was expand the existing parking lot or to at least provide future options to expand. There was, the commission had made the comment, they liked the natural playground, the natural-based playground, the more mowed trails, or more natural trails, and then to study the river channel to assure boating and fishing will work. So those were the 4 items I took away from the meeting that we went back to the master plan and updated. You do not have the latest master plan, but it's pretty darn close, so I'm gonna pull up the one, this is the latest version of the master plan from our consultant, ISG. So this image is the same that was in your packet, 2,300 linear feet of shoreline, 230 acres of adjacent scientific and natural area property to the Mississippi Dunes. And as we scroll, and then it also, this map here also shows some of the additional, so Gray Cloud SNA, future regional park from Washington County, future regional park or marina as identified in the comp plan. And then there's also, as part of this mining operation, a potential future or likely future park down on this side of the island as well, somewhere on this side of the island as well. And then also Settlers Island and Hayes and P. Moore are existing parks. So that's kind of a layout of the land and how the public park property looks today and in the future. We inventoried the site and talked about anything from infrastructure to natural resources and buildings that were on the site. So we analyzed all that, looked for opportunities, strengths, weaknesses, and did all that with the help of our consultant. Some pictures of what the property looks like today. So the updated master plan looks similar to what's in your packet. Looking for an entry, two potential entries off of Gray Cloud Trail. One that goes through the neighborhood and one that's a little bit shorter than that. And a little more direct access. Obviously, there's some park open space as part of the stormwater requirements closer to the railroad property. And some of these are existing wetlands, so have to be preserved. The city did work with the SNA and had multiple meetings with the scientific, Minnesota DNR and the Scientific Natural Area. And this 13 acres, or I'm sorry, this 12 acres is what they identified to us as the most critical areas they wanted to protect. They've been preserving prairie there and maintaining for the prairie there and doing prescribed burns there for several years. And we asked them what pieces of the property they wanted to make sure that they kept preserved for natural habitat, and that was this is the 12 acres that they want. So then the city went and based on the commission recommendations from the commission and also city council, the park dedication was about 20 acres. The city asked for closer to 40 acres, and we've been working with the landowner, the developer, to try to go, to get that extra acreage and all along, obviously along the Mississippi River. So as you can see, there's hang on one second here. There's the parking lot. We did include a potential for expanding the parking lot in the future. That's this item number 7 here. Number 1 would be a wayfinding sign or a park sign, and it could be a public art opportunity. 2 would be a 4-season building. 4 would be some sort of a grand lawn, so a smaller area, but somewhere you can still maybe throw a frisbee or lay on a blanket and enjoy the views. 5 is a terrace or patio coming off of the building. 8 would be more the parking, but more for the boat launch and fishing area. So I think there's 15 stalls down by the river. There's also a fishing pier and then a small boat launch. We are still, the 4th item that I mentioned, I'm still working with the DNR, the Watershed District, and other folks to try to really figure out, and actually have a boat tour scheduled with someone next week to go kind of do check the depths of the channel through there to make sure that's even realistic, or can it be large boats, it can only be smaller boats, or can it only be paddles or kayaks. So we'll do some more research on that, but I'm still talking to a lot of folks on that. Same thing, talked to the fisheries about the fishing potential. They said, well, spring fishing might be good, but beyond that, you're probably not gonna have a lot of success fishing out there, but still something that they wanna work with us on and identify if there's an opportunity. Stormwater management area, so a ponding area through here, which there's kind of an existing ponding area there. The nature-based playground, they specifically named that out this time on the map just to make sure that was noted for the commission's sake. And perhaps a tiered seating educational area or nature educational area down here along the trail. These solid items are paved trails. I don't know what you call those, but the other non-solid lines are rock trails. And then in between there, where the more gray trails are those added mode trails. And obviously that can expand, but also want to make sure we're preserving habitat kind of in this entire section east of this active area. So the goal is, once you get east of this active area, to protect as much property as possible for natural habitat on that east side. So there is a trail that runs through here, and actually the DNR was thankful for that, or recommended that, because as they do their prescribed burns, they wanted to make sure they had a burn break through here, so they recommended keeping that paved trail through here, so they had a clear burn break. And then obviously the connecting to the existing water trail. So there's a few overlooks out here, just small, similar to the ones you guys saw that were out there, maybe a small deck area, but just somewhere to sit down and take in some views. And then the water trail system, we've been working hard on trying to get those canoe kayak trail systems so people can have a purpose to their paddle, right? So they can paddle the island, they can paddle the county land someday, and go to these different destinations and have these different stops. So that connects to our water trail system. So, still working with partnerships. Obviously, if there's 20 acres of park dedication, the city still needs to try to figure out funding for the other 20 acres. So we're still working through with some of our partners to figure out how we put those pieces together for land acquisition. As far as community engagement, our plan is to finish the master, this is the latest draft of the master plan. If there's any other comments from the commission, we'll take those. But the plan is to make sure that we have I won't call it a final master plan, but a final master plan from the commission that we can take out for public engagement. We are going to have an online feedback forum from September 22nd to October 6th. ISG, our consultant, has helped set that up. So from September 22nd to October 26th, anybody can go online, give their feedback on the plan. We'll collect that data, interpret that data, give that back to the commission and or council to review it. We'd also have an open house on October 7th from 4 to 6:30 p.m. And then we would have a final master plan of the Parks Commission for the November 8th meeting. Along with the EAW, the master plan would be included along with the Environmental Awareness Worksheet, work plan to the Planning Commission November 22nd. And then we would bring all this back to the council either end of December or early January for final approval. So that's our projected timeline. I will take any questions.
Just one comment. I looked at the original plan. Are we missing some of those fishing platforms? Didn't we have some that were just along that whole shoreline, a few of them going out?
I don't recall the other ones on there. As I recall, the conversation was that as we got further down the shore, we wanted to make sure that stayed natural. So I guess that was the direction that I took, that less active areas and more passive areas east of that main area. So really wanted to focus all the active recreational areas down on that west side, but certainly can take recommendations.
You had mentioned there's some continuing dialogue about possibly obtaining more acreage for the park area. Do we know how that's progressing or if it's progressing?
So we've been meeting with, we've had meetings with the landowner, we've had meetings with Friends of the Mississippi River, we've had meetings with the developer, Washington County. So we're meeting with all sorts of different groups. I still have some phone calls into a couple other nonprofit groups that might be interested. But what we've been talking about is this master plan specifically.
And this includes 40 acres.
40 acres, because that was a recommendation at the time between the commission and the council, was to try to get that extra 20 acres. Park dedication will give us about 20. The recommendation from the commission and the council was to shoot for about 40. So that's what we're aiming for.
Do we know for sure that the 40 acres would be dedicated for parks at this point, or is that still in negotiation?
That would still be a part of the development process. But to be clear, there is no formal development application on the table at the moment. So we have not gone through the process. The city council or planning commission has not started that process yet because there is no formal application. My understanding is the developer is doing the environmental awareness work plan. So that takes quite a bit of time. There's a lot of different entities, MnDOT, and just a lot of pollution control. Everybody's kind of involved in that process, so that takes quite a while.
So does that mean we could be doing this process again after that development contract is in place?
The landowner and the developer have seen this plan, so it's not a surprise to them that we are looking to acquire 40 acres. Now, through the development process, anything can happen, but this would not be a surprise to them, but we would have to come up with funding to purchase the extra 20 acres.
And if that doesn't happen, this all goes back to square one as far as developing a master plan. So you have
We
to,
would not be able to do this master plan if we can't acquire 40 acres. We would have to come up with a different plan. Now, you could certainly save the majority of this
Oh,
plan. And
certainly.
just, shrink it down, but yes.
I know there's some comments on the open forum earlier about, I can't remember exactly, but some funding options that were out there through the Friends of the Mississippi or certain other entities. That's something we're pursuing, or?
Yes, yep.
any other comments? So, go ahead, Dan.
There we go. What is the project, now they're doing the environmental impact statement, I'm assuming, and all that. When is that supposed to be completed? Do we have a hard date on that? So get an estimate as to when that's going to happen, and then the final meeting with the landowner and the potential buyer?
Yeah, as I
Where are we at on
understand it,
that?
the environmental impact statement's still, they're still a month out for that. I think that takes several weeks. I don't know
Yeah.
if anybody else, do you guys know when that would be? I don't know, but there's several, it takes several weeks. I thought it was beginning of December was what they were shooting for.
And there's a lot of people that are going to be at play on that one, so that could, I understand that could take a long time. That's between the DNR and Fish and Wildlife and everybody else, it could be.
Everybody has a say, yep.
Yeah.
Everybody has a review. And there was a comment made at the council meeting to make sure, there's ways around that, but the council's been pretty clear that they want that to happen, so they'll be seeing that.
Okay, any other comments? At this point, for the audience, we are just gathering more information. We're not taking any action, further action at this time.
Any other recommendations to the plan before we continue with the public engagement process? That's really all I need. You don't need to take formal action tonight, though.
I know there's one comment during the open forum earlier about the property not being zoned for residential development. Is that accurate, or?
I'm not the best person to answer that question. That's out of my,
It's zoned R1 residential, 3 acres or larger.
perhaps Councilman Olson would like to respond.
Yeah, the property's been zoned the way that it's zoned now, which is actually R2, and it's been zoned that way for years and years and years. There's been no conversation that I'm aware of with respect to rezoning it. I know that whenever a development comes online and we get an application, there's a robust process where staff will review all of the zoning requirements. They'll look for any findings of fact that would result in the property owner needing to request a zoning amendment. Zoning amendments are hard to get, but they can certainly ask for one. Then it would go through the planning commission process. The planning commission would identify whether or not the zoning is appropriate for the development application or not. And they will give feedback to the staff on all sorts of different things. Could be tree mitigation, it could be lot sizes, it could be lots of things. And staff will then refine whatever it is they need to refine in partnership with the property owner. Developments are, they're very challenging because every development is different based on each piece of property, and they're all different. So that robust process is really important. And then once it finally does make it past the planning commission, provided it does, then it would come to council, and council would engage in that same dialogue with staff about, is the zoning appropriate? Do we have other things that we'd like to see? I mean, we talk about building materials, we talk about all kinds of different things, but we're nowhere close to that yet. We don't have anything on our table at this point in time. And as Zach mentioned earlier, Planning Commission hasn't even looked at it yet. So kind of a premature thing to think about at this point.
Thank you.
Just one question. If we, when we go after the other 20 acres, how do we pay for that? Is it through budget cuts, or is it bake sale, or I don't?
We are looking at partners to work with us, so there's multiple options. There's grant programs, whether that's the DNR or other grant programs. Washington County has the legacy funding that we're hoping we could partner with them on, acquire some land here. So that's just 2 examples. There's a list of options, so we're working with partners to try to get that funding.
Any other questions or comments? Thanks, Zach.
Thank you.
Next item, Art Trail.
I just wanted to share information about how the traveling art trail went this summer. Our awesome park staff helped install and move the art trail through several of our community parks. And I was out there every couple of days checking on use, and it seems like lots of people were engaging with the different stations. I included pictures here so you could see some of the things that our neighbors have been making. And I hope to add a new station next year, including kindness art rocks that people can create and leave for others to use, or take one home if it's inspiring for them.
So we have plans for the future, you were saying?
Yes, I hope to do it again next year, but I'm going to be working to recruit some people to help make me rocks.
Okay.
Yeah, the community education through ISD 833, they had a field trip that included the art trail where people got to come and interact with the stations, and then they did additional crafts together as a group. So I was thinking of reaching out to them as a possible partner for creating the next station.
Okay. Any other comments on the art trail? I just commend you for your efforts here.
Yeah, thanks for all your work, Commissioner Brown.
Moving on, donation acknowledgements.
No official acknowledgements tonight, but obviously, coming to you in the next meeting, you'll see the Woodridge scoreboard, the Hamlet football soccer field project along with the scoreboard there, and then a tree at Meadowgrass. So those will be coming to you in a more formal fashion at the next meeting. So they're coming in, but.
Okay, staff reports and educational material.
Included the ice arena recreation, golf course, and park maintenance divisions reports, updates for your review, seeing what those staff teams are doing. Also included a nice article regarding the Tennessee River line. I thought it was kind of in sync with what we're talking about with access to the Mississippi River, and also talked about the success of canoeing and paddling and how that industry is blowing up. So I thought it was very relevant, and we kind of saw that through the paddle share program with all the rentals we've had there. So good example of ways to develop recreational activity on the rivers. And I thought it was just interesting, and they talked about equity of access and economic development and things like that. So I thought it was an interesting article, and hopefully you enjoyed it.
Okay. Commission comments.
I had a question quick, Zach, about the paddle share deal. You know how many rentals we did this summer?
Last year was 800. Do you know what it was this year? It's got to be about the same.
I have not got that far yet in my summer.
Feels about the same though, doesn't it?
If it's gonna be a little bit less, I know a couple times we went down there, I think people were kind of discouraged because the water was so low that it wasn't probably an ultimate family-friendly event this year, just because you had to kind of get through some mud and some duckweed and lots of stuff to get to this year. So I think some people went and maybe were discouraged and necessarily didn't come back, but I think it was just the water was low. I think it just kind of turned some people away this year. It was kind of icky.
That's a technical term for whatever.
Yes. Yeah, it was pretty funky. We go down there quite a bit.
Yeah, I heard from what you heard a lot of people. Kayak cleaning was a whole new ballgame this year.
All right. Any other comments from the commission? If not, council comments. Justin.
Thank you. First of all, I have a couple of fun facts for you guys. Cottage Grove, as you know, along with every other community in the country, recently underwent a census. If you haven't seen the data yet, there's some interesting data points that I just want to share with you this evening. I believe the mayor shared these via social media as well. Our population currently is at 38,442 persons, which makes Cottage Grove the 25th largest city in the state of Minnesota. We didn't quite crack the top 1,000 in the country. We're 1,023rd, but we'll get them next time. Our growth in the last 10 years has been really solid, 11.14% population growth since the last census. And one of the things that I think is really neat about this data is not only are we growing, but we're growing and diversifying our population base. If you look at our 2020 census data, it establishes that those who responded identified 84% as white, almost 7% as Asian, almost 5% as Black or African American, 2 or more races, almost 3%, and then Native American, 0.34%, and Native Hawaiian or Pacific Islander, 0.16%. So one of the things that I take great pride in is we are a welcoming community for people of all backgrounds, experiences, races, et cetera, and we're seeing that in the population growth in all of those various categories. So a lot of fun. There's a lot of good data out there. You can slice it and dice it any way you like, but I wanted to share that with you. I also wanted to let you know that, tying a bit into the conversation tonight about the community center. In the month of October, the council update that will be produced by SWCTC happens to be me. Last year at this time, I did a council update at the ice arena. And this year, I really want to encourage people to go out to vote for the community center. So, there'll be some conversation that will take place at SWCTC. We haven't quite narrowed it down yet, but what I'm considering is, as the mayor's been doing and other council members have been doing, really trying to get as much information out there for the public as possible. We want people to be informed, and we want people to vote. That's the bottom line. So, should you or any of your friends or family members think about, any questions that you may have related to the community center project itself, or any of the other elements of that project, please feel free to send me a note. You can email me, you can call me, you can send it through Zach, and Zach can get it to me. But what I want to be able to do is I want to be able to give people as much data as they want or need in order to make an informed decision, and more than anything, really get people to vote. It's a tough year because it's 2021, so we have a school board election, but you don't have a president running, you don't have a governor running, you don't have a senator running. So sometimes people don't take the opportunity to get out and vote as they would in a even year in those odd year elections. So we really want to get people to make sure that their voice is heard, and as many ways as we can to get information out about the referendum and the importance of voting. We're all trying to kind of pitch in and do that. So again, if you have any questions or thoughts, you can certainly reach out to me or go through Zach. And then the last thing I wanted to let you know is, the council's been busy all summer, as we typically are. And at our next meeting, we will be talking about the budget for next year. We go through a very, very intense budget process. Some of you have probably heard this before, so I'll try to keep the Reader's Digest version for you. But, we go through months of analyzing numbers from every different department. Park and Rec, as you might imagine, has been just exploding with all the different development that we've seen. We've had more parks that have come online. We've had a lot of park reconstruction, as Zach talked about earlier. The golf course has been extremely busy and is running a profitable business. The ice arena has been busy, running a profitable business. So the council will be looking at, sort of the final budget recommendation next week. And I just want everybody to be aware that, it's not something that we just do on the spur of the moment or in an hour or two. This is an investment of many, many hours of time on the part of the council and the staff. And the staff does a tremendous job of answering all of our questions and getting us all the data that we need in order to make sure that we put together a budget that will be supportive of this community and continue to make it the great place it is today to live, work, and play. And, you know, as you've seen from the growth number I just mentioned a little bit ago, 11% in 10 years, we certainly have to continue to keep our eye on the ball when it comes to, you know, infrastructure and parks and trails and having enough staff to maintain all of that stuff so that the residents who've chosen to call Cottage Grove home get the best bang for their buck when they pay those tax bills every year. And that's what we're focused on, and I think we've done a good job of it. Any questions that you have for me?
I guess we're letting you off easy this time.
Yeah,
so.
thanks.
All right.
One thing I wanted to ask is, Zach, would you indulge my colleague, Mayor Pro Tem Dennis? He is also here tonight, and I certainly want to open the floor for any comments he might have since, you know, he took the time to be here. Would that be acceptable?
Certainly.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilmember Olson. I appreciate that opportunity. And good evening, Mr. Chair and Commission members. First thing I would like to do is take a moment to do something that I do at the commissions that I'm involved with, and that is to thank you for your service. It's very important and meaningful to our community. Not always easy, but I believe it's a rewarding job, and we're very appreciative to have you here. So I was inclined tonight to come in and talk a little bit, and since we have this up on the screen, we have a plan, which is the current definition, nothing written in stone, but we have a plan here that is being performed in good faith. And it's very important that I share these words because they come from my heart to the community. For those who know me and have trusted me for over 30 years that I've lived here in our city, I will tell you that I have never seen a process so in-depth and considerate relative to trying to create a great outcome for our community. And that's what I believe is happening here. So tonight, I want to take the opportunity to play attorney. Now, Mike, you know me back from when we were at the PD together, and I was affectionately referred to you as Captain Zerbe, out of respect. We care a little bit about the law and about how things happen. So what I wanted to do was read an excerpt, and I want the words to be very straightforward. I want them to be crystal clear, and I want them to stand by virtue of the fact that I'm on the record here in front of a camera. First and foremost, this has been a process which has been very inclusive. It's been out here in the public. We've had a lot of time in front of the camera, which I think is amazing. So I want to read this to give you and the community members at home who are watching a little bit of perspective on what we can do in a project like this. So like all other forms of structure, there's some considerations everyone should be aware of regarding the limitations of what any city can do regarding development. If a request is brought forward from a current property owner, that owner has the legal right to develop its property pursuant to the laws on the books as of this moment in time. Laws that are contained in state statute, the city's comprehensive plan, the zoning ordinance, and subdivision regulations. In essence, every property owner has a constitutional right to rely on these governing documents to know how its property can be used. This owner is following the process the city has established, and the city is required by law to do so as well. If a city violates due process, we can expect to face a number of problems, including litigation, which could result in a substantial monetary damage, as well as losing any further ability to control the outcome of the development's design. And since we live in a free market society where deals can be achieved between a willing seller and buyer, the only legitimate chance we would have for fully denying a project would relate to issues involving zoning and/or licensure. Neither of these issues apply here because of the status of the land, which falls within the accepted zoning direction, which is transitional. It's got a transitional tag. And what that means categorically is if this owner wants to develop some homes on the property, he has the legal right to do that and work within the confines of how we conduct business here. So we are respectful We have been listening to folks, both inside and outside our community, I might add, who don't necessarily pay a tax here or have a vote, but we have been listening. And you guys have been listening and doing a great job. And I want to commend you, I want to commend our staff, and all the other stakeholders that have been working here together to try to bring this to a great opportunity for our city. When I look at that 43 acres, that's a lot of land. Think about it like this, folks. Would you want to mow 43 acres? The answer is no. That's a lot of land. So if we can score this, and I believe that the property owner is acting in good faith with our staff in preliminary discussions, trying to get the very best outcome we can for our community, that's a good thing. And I feel confident in that. So I appreciate all the hard work and the dedication, and I look forward as your council member to working forward to a good completion. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mayor Bailey would like to speak.
So I guess the only thing I'll just mention, so thank you again. One thing that I forgot to mention earlier on the community center message, just real quick, is we do have a large full mailing that's going to go out for the community center. So that'll be actually going out, I believe, in the month of October. Am I correct, Zach? I did forget to mention that. Second of all is I'm not going to add anything specific to what was just stated, because I know that you guys have been sitting here looking at this project. Other than just to tell you even earlier tonight, and I know Councilmember Dennis knows this because I shared it with him, that, we on the council do, just like you guys do, we do listen. We go out. Right before I came to the meeting here tonight, I was meeting with some neighbors behind Cedar's Mansion to have some conversations about buffering and how the development plans are happening around Cedar. So we're willing to do that, and I just wanted to share that with you. So whether it's that case, whether it's the case with the Mississippi Dunes Golf Course, we're not going to please everyone. I'm going to tell you that right up front. That's not going to happen. And so we're just going to try to get to the best outcome for the majority of citizens involved. So thank you.
Thank you. If there's nothing further, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion?
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.